Hi, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Enter the Foxhole. It is Edwin over here, and
Craig Robinson.
we're here to bring you all your favorite fancy gaming news. A lot of interesting things happened this week. Today is April of the 21st.
I think that's what we should be doing because
Very much so.
next thing you know, it'll be like a week later, and then the episode will go up like, oh hey,
It's like,
I knew about this a long ass time ago.
Exactly. So now y'all know we've been new this shit. But this is the day of April 21st, and some interesting gaming news happened like the past couple of days. Within the last 5 days, some pretty megaton gaming news has happened. Just to start you out on our first topic we're going to be discussing is one of our favorite all-time Japanese developers has made his way to Bethesda, but this was maybe about a year or two ago, and now his team is going to be debuting their new game with Bethesda as a publisher, and it is called The Evil Within. So go ahead, Craig, kick us off into this fanciness that is this new IP.
The Evil Within. Well, if you don't know, The Evil Within is the new game by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Mikami, as you would know him from such games as, I don't know, Resident Evil.
Good. Dino Crisis. Devil May Cry.
To less extent, Dino Crisis.
of Resident Evil fame.
Yeah, there you go. Of Resident Evil fame.
Of Resident Evil fame, pre-4. But, yes, in terms of a director himself, we very much like him. He's a revolutionary in terms of gameplay design.
He's freaking a god amongst the game developers.
Yes,
you not only do you create a genre, as in survival horror, you literally create it and make it a popular genre. But then to go and say, okay, now I'm gonna make something else. I'm gonna make a Devil May Cry game, which freaking retools everything about, reimagines everything about how an action game should be played. So. And this guy's been making revolutionary game after revolutionary.
And to be fair, he just published he just produced Devil May Cry. But to be honest, he's pretty much the one that got Hideki Kamiya even as director of that game series. And even that's actually very true. Even with the early development of Devil May Cry was actually taglined as a Resident Evil game. Mm-hmm. Even a lot of areas in the game were from old scrapped Resident Evil stuff. So it's like,
can you imagine Dante skinned as Leon?
Yeah, disgusting.
Kicking ass with his sword, jumping up, shooting zombies on the floor and shit.
That seems very Hideki. But it's I like the influence that he's had in the industry over the past couple of years. He's had a very, very strong Japanese presence. Even though the games he makes seem very Western, he still has a lot of fancy Eastern design. He just to state how revolutionary this director is. The original Resident Evil, because at the time FPSs were really popular. There were a lot of game genres that were really up and coming, and first-person shooters were one of them. And around that same time period, the first Resident Evil 2, was going to be released. And the president of the president of Capcom, wanted Resident Evil to be a first-person shooter. So Shinji Mikami goes and he ends up showing off what it would look like in third person, and the president, or it wasn't the president, it was one of his producers who was assisting him on the game, wanted to be a first person shooter. So he goes and he shows this to the president of Capcom in third person instead of first person. So everybody loves it, and they're all talking about how this is really, really amazing. But they love it so much that the one producer that really wanted to be in first person never said anything, because it's almost why would you want to say against them? Everyone's praising it.
Oh, man, this game's awesome, but yes, it also be awesome in first person.
Yes, and Shinji Mikami essentially did his little blind side on him and was like, "Oh, say something now, bitch." but he's definitely changed a lot in terms of how people view horror games, or really how people view the East. This was, in my opinion, next to Square, Final Fantasy, anything that wasn't an RPG. This Resident Evil 2 might have been the first time a Japanese game had got such critical acclaim from the West, and it's it got such great acclaim that you might even forget that it was even a Japanese game to begin with.
Sure.
So any of the games that he's made over the past couple of years, or he's like physically directed, like any of the Resident Evil games before 4, and then God Hand, which he did a little bit after Resident Evil 4, which like I've heard was a really, really amazing beat 'em up. And then the Shadow of the Damned. It's like anything he's a part of has really, really strong gameplay stuff. Just to say he revolutionized third person like games is really an understatement. The idea that prior to Resident Evil you didn't even have much games that did this type of camera angle, and then to come out in Resident Evil 4 and then reinvent the same genre you essentially help propel even more so. Like I understand that there were games like Kill Switch and some other games that did the whole third person camera thing, but Resident Evil 4 brought it to absolutely new heights. So it's like for him to do another game is a big deal. It's a bigger deal than I feel a lot of people really appreciate. So when he's making a new game, he's directing a new game, I think it's something that a lot of people need to like.
Special.
Yes, that it's gonna be a big deal. It's gonna be a good franchise, I think.
No, for sure.
So
I'm not sure if we even mentioned did we even mention the name of the game?
Oh yeah, I thought we did.
Yeah, we might have, but yeah. So The Evil Within is the new game that's coming out. It's very survival horror-y. If you haven't seen the trailer already, it's actually a little disturbing. It's a very interesting trailer. It's very exciting.
It's very
to see something like
it's
that.
very Silent Hill.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's very Silent Hill, but it's almost like gory Silent Hill. It's almost like all the gory parts of Silent Hill in like one small trailer.
It's pretty insane.
Like
watching to me the part that did it was that like creature crawling up from the puddle of blood. It was it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool.
It starts up really like because all week Bethesda has been showing little like cryptic screens and really cryptic videos of like flowers and then of vines and of a lot of weird things just leading up to this announcement. And many times they stated that like it's not Fallout 4, hold your tongue, it's really not, and then it really isn't. So this trailer starts off, you see some guy twisting some barbed wire with some like metal, and mind you, all of this is being shown in actual live action. There's no in-game being shown.
I don't know. That might be an engine.
But me and Craig had made jokes when the game was first shown. We were making jokes that by the time the trailer's done, it's in live action, but we're making jokes that like the little tagline by the time it ends is going to be like, it's an engine. This is all real time.
Unreal 4.
Unreal 6. This is real time. And you guys never knew. But the game shows some guy twisting some barbed wire, and it shows a couple of other like scenes in the background of some weird, creepy, esoteric Silent Hill type things happening. And then there's like blood everywhere, and then it shows a lot more like weird, gory scenes. But it's a short video, and then there's this guy with apparently it's like seems to be some sort of safe on his head. And he's like,
that was weird.
And he's like making this like, I think it seems like a bat or something out of like barbed wire. So this weird puddle of blood is just in the middle of the room, and then all of a sudden this creature starts like crawling out of it, almost like The Ring or something. But the screens that we've seen of the game kind of show more of what it's about. Like they show the main character is not the guy with the safe on his head that's making this weird like weapon of destruction. It seems like they're going more towards like this like, I don't want to say nemesis, but that's the only thing I could think of, because it looks like this guy is an important thing in the game, that he's almost like the nemesis that keeps following.
Like the big daddy nemesis creature.
Like you're gonna keep seeing him over and over. I mean, that could be nothing. For all we know, he might just be one of the, you said, a big daddy type enemy.
Abstract thing, yeah.
So, but they show you fighting some like zombified people, but and let me just put that out there, that one of these zombie things has like they have like they were holding that thing with fire. It was a torch.
There it is.
Yeah.
There's the word.
They're holding. He was holding the torch, and I was like, oh, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I
guess Evil 4 vibe.
Yes. So that's the only thing that I took away as bad from it. But at the same time, you can understand that this is not Capcom making this. That this is Shinji Mikami, the man, making this. And so whether or not they're like not 100% full zombie, of whether they're holding stuff or attacking with stuff, you'd have to understand that like it's Shinji Mikami making this, so it's such a big deal that I definitely want to see more of what he's going to do with it.
Oh, for sure.
So it's definitely a game to look out on. It's because the horror genre, in my opinion, has been kind of lacking throughout, especially the survivor horror. Because
I mean, it's almost like survivor horror almost doesn't seem to exist too much anymore.
Agreed.
Besides, like, you know, some notable exceptions, like say like games like Amnesia or even Dead Space isn't like hasn't strayed. Like I was afraid for Dead Space it was going to stray, but Dead Space 3 was still very survival horror-y. But like besides like games like those, you have like the little like the Slender games that have been coming out too. Those have been
so it's like
same with the whole thing, but like all in all, like survival horror just isn't as like profound as it used to be. Like you don't have your like back in like the PlayStation 2 or the early PlayStation, like you had your Resident Evils, you had your Silent Hills, you had your Fatal Frames.
Yeah, that's true.
You had a lot of really good creepy games.
That was a good time frame.
Oh, for sure.
But and I agree. I feel that survival horror is so limited in terms of the games that really did it. Mm-hmm. I feel it could only really be held to the first couple Resident Evils. And mind you, it could actually only be held to every Resident Evil besides 4 in majority of the Silent Hills. So it's like it's such a limited genre that you could really count on maybe 2 hands every single game that's released in that genre.
Sure.
That's truly actually lived up to that genre. And now anytime somebody says, well, a survival horror game, and the idea is that you're buying your weapons or that you're buying life,
it becomes an action-based
yes,
thing.
Agreed. So I don't really think in my mind that, well, if you're buying it and there's not a limited amount in the game, then you're really not surviving anything. In fact, the survival is in this game is almost as vague as the survival of any game, really, if you think about it. So I definitely think the idea of it is limited ammo, limited health, limited everything, so that way you have that sense of that you could die around any corner.
Now, which is what I really like about the Amnesia thing is not only do they give you limited, they literally like give you nothing. You don't get much of anything in that game. Like you collect tinder and like things to light like fire. That you might light like a candle with it, but even that is limited. So like you're in this dark house and you're collecting these things that allow you to light a lamp because you just been in darkness for so long. You need to see something, and even that is limited. Like not only is your weapons limited, the amount of light you have in the game to actually see to progress is limited. So it creates like this really creepy atmosphere when you see an enemy. Or when you even hear an enemy, like you barely even see an enemy in that game. When you hear something, your first instinct is to go run away and hide. So it's legit. It's the horror like encompasses you as a player because it's just like you're just completely freaked out the entire time, and it's got this genius sanity thing going on. Like the more you're in darkness, the more you actually see your enemies, the crazier you're gonna get, and the crazier you get, the more weird shit's happening around you. So the more crazy you get, the more scared as a player you're becoming because now you don't know what the fuck is going to happen anymore. So Amnesia to me is like really, it was a nice take on survival horror that most games just don't really have anymore.
Young man, you are selling me this game.
Dude, you guys, Amnesia is so good.
You guys have just heard Craig sell me a game, and I'm literally going to buy this game.
It's so good. Amnesia is so like literally. I played like a quarter of it, maybe a quarter. I'm not even sure how much I played, how far I actually got, but that game literally scares the shit out. I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't want to play that game because that game literally scares the shit out of me.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing because
it did its job.
Exactly.
Because I feel like with the understanding of if you have a limited amount of weapons or a limited amount of anything, that heightens the sense of horror.
Sure.
So I'm though I see that you do on the screenshots for Evil Within, you do have a weapon. I think Shinji Mikami will go more to the roots because I don't feel the changing of the series to what they really did with 4 and 5 in terms of the structure of the game. I don't believe that was Shinji Mikami's doing. I don't think he would have wanted to change some of those fundamental elements so much as that seems like it was Capcom as a publisher that changed that. So I feel that Bethesda, so far from them as a publisher, Bethesda has kind of let their teams create really well, like that Dishonored game, and I would say their team id, what they did Rage, they seem to really kind of let their teams be on their own to do their own stuff. So I believe they'll let Shinji Mikami's team make this game the way Shinji Mikami wants the game to be made. So I don't really see a heavy publisher hand on it. So, which is great because I feel it's going to be survival horror down to a T.
Let's just get it straight. I mean, games are made by developers.
It's
like
and like publishers.
Publishers and producers are getting such a heavy hand in a lot of the decision making.
Yes,
to the point that we're seeing, like, what it comes down to, like, you're just getting a lot of the same games just reskinned.
Very much so. Like what they did with the RE series.
Exactly, the RE series is like everything.
Yuck. Yeah,
it's awful, but that's a conversation for another day. We're talking about it with it.
Very much so. We'll be here all day talking about those bastards. But Shinji Mikami came out with a new game is a big deal. But let me just mention that I firmly believe that doesn't mean that Bethesda's working on Fallout 3. Because a lot of people have had through some confusion with this. Bethesda's publishing this game, and they own the team. I believe, I don't remember what it's called. It's called Game something, Game Twine, or Game Tune. Shinji Mikami's team.
Called Team Mikami.
Or just gonna call it Team Mikami. But apparently Shinji Mikami's team that helped them do Vanquish along with Platinum.
It's kind of cool.
It is.
It was pretty cool.
It is. It was an interesting game. If Shinji Mikami's doing it, I don't give it a fuck.
Yeah,
but his team that's doing this game is not Bethesda. Bethesda simply publishing it, though they own Shinji Mikami's team. So in that respect, it would technically mean they're making it too. It's not the same Fallout team that's making. It's not the main Skyrim team that's making this game.
Yeah, you're not going to get Elder Scrolls, a survival horror game.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people were talking about like bugs or if it was going to be like glitchy. It's like no, it's not the same people working on this game. So that's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel that there's a Fallout 4 will get announced anyway. That really has nothing to do with nothing. I just think they wanted to rest people's like fears, like not fears, but just make people kind of rest that this isn't Fallout 4 is being announced. Just like make everybody not go clearly crazy. But enough about that. We'll talk about more of it when more
information comes.
Very much so.
It's definitely a game you need to keep your eye on.
It is like the game. It's one of those like you purchase this and you don't really. Yeah. I don't look to maybe purchase a game like this. This is one of those like day one.
That's like one of those. You don't look at the trailer. Just go put in your reserve right now because you know it's gonna be awesome.
You just put in your reserve like Evil Within, horror, Shigami. Yeah, sure. Making this happen. They just gonna give him money.
Was it $80? It's $80. Take my $80. Sir, it's only $30. Take $80. I want you to have all of it.
Take my wallet. That car outside, yours. That sounds like Willie would say. That car outside, yours.
Take it. My keys, they're yours. My shoe, right shoe, left shoe, both here.
I am stripping naked in front of you right now, sir. You take my clothes and you sell them for whatever you want. Sir, can I have your phone number and name? Good Lord. Not on the first date. No, to make the reserve, sir. Please. We don't even know your name. And if you write down your name, you let them know. If the reserve doesn't come in, you call me at this number. You write down a number, you give it to him. And then when I finally leave, he looks at the number. It's 911.
If I don't show up on this date, you better call the police.
It's like that's one of those stupid like action movie things. So like doing some. Oh man.
American make when they releases this number for your life.
But another noticeable thing to talk about the Evil Within, which I completely forgot about, is that this game is being released on PlayStation 3 and 360, but it's also being released on next gen systems.
I didn't know.
Yes, so
that is news to me.
It is a multi-generational game. And I actually wanted to touch up on multi-generational stuff, but we'll touch on it in another podcast. There's a lot of interesting things to discuss about that.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about episode 5 another day. We'll talk about that. A lot of other news was talked about this week outside of like next gen stuff and Shinji Mikami stuff. A lot of Nintendo stuff. Nintendo's Direct was earlier this week, about 4 days ago, and they announced a lot of fancy things and.
Fancy handheld things.
A lot of fancy, yes, that's Craig is mentioning. The majority of this the majority of it was handheld, like almost, I don't want to say all of it, but there was literally maybe 2 or 3 announcements out of like the dozen that were actually like Wii U related or even Wii related. Actually, well, Wii U related, they didn't say anything about the Wii. But one of them, just to go down the list of what was announced. Some interesting stuff. Mario Party 3DS is coming out, and it's coming out this fall. I didn't really see many details on it.
I mean, but how many details you need. It's gonna be Mario Party. You're gonna have it in your hands. Like you're gonna be able to take it on the bus with you. Like to me, it's like it's interesting that you get Mario Party on the go. But like to me, if I'm playing a Mario Party game, that's not really a game I want to take with me somewhere.
Yeah,
like
that seems like a weird IP to put portable.
Yeah, to me like. And then I'm not sure. I'm assuming that it's going to have some sort of internet support. Though I don't know that. That's a safe bet. Yeah, it seems plausible. Like to me, when I'm thinking online, like playing a game in my handheld online, I'm thinking about like if I'm walking down the street somewhere or like on the bus somewhere. Am I gonna want to play Mario Party online at that point?
Yeah, that seems like a weird.
I mean, it's like because Mario Party games, like the typical Mario Party games, they take a good little bit of time. It's like sitting down, like you're literally just playing a board game. You gotta sit down and engage yourself in this game for a little bit. Whereas like a game of like the Super Smash Bros. Game that's coming out for the 3DS eventually, that's gonna have online support. You can play a fighting game in like 5-10 minutes.
That's very true.
That ends.
Especially if
Mario Party, that can go for a good like half an hour.
Especially when you consider like you could play that by yourself, or
exactly.
you could play it. I don't mean play it by yourself, but you could play it online against others.
Yeah.
Where it's like I like the idea of Mario Party being able to be played online, but truthfully, Mario Party is the type of game. And me and Craig could protest to this. We have our friends that we play this game with, and a lot of times, I myself don't like the series. I myself actually own 0 Mario Party games, yet played almost all of them. It's like though we don't know any of the games, though a lot of the games aren't really like fun on its own like merits. It's fun because the people that you're with that you're playing the game with, you're just kind of screwing around and having fun and making jokes and then making names.
It's like in the title itself, right? It's a party game.
Yeah,
that's a game that you need to have people around. You need to be engaging with people. That's a game that I need to have just a whole bunch of people just like interacting with me. So if you're telling me you're putting on a portable console, where to me a portable console is a very solo experience because it's just you and your system.
That's sure.
So it's like. It's a very solo experience. To put a party game on something like that, it's kind of weird.
I don't see it. I really don't see it going well online. But who knows? They could try to have something where they make
maybe they would add like a mode that like just shortens the experience to make it actually playable. But I don't know what you would do.
Like more like mini games or make the board shorter. I don't know how it would work because I feel that I feel it really is a consoles game where you have to play it on a big screen and everyone in a room to have fun with it.
For sure.
Another thing I'd like to know is. Well, I think that actually that may not work that way. How does the game work with multiple people? Are they going to do like they did with Super Mario Brothers, or the new Super Mario Bros. Where like if you had it was Mario 64 for the DS, where if you had a 2DSs that if one person owned the game, you could have multiple people still play the mini games that was on that game. I'm not really sure if you could do that because to my understanding with the 3DS, the game data saves on the actual cartridge now. Not the cartridge, on the actual thing. It saves on the system.
On the system, yeah.
So because it saves on the system, I'd like to know, or is that possible for it to everybody to branch off on that same game? Does that make sense
that
to
would
me?
be better, yeah.
That's what I hope they do.
You're still technically in the same room. You're still around each other. You can still have that experience, but
that makes more sense.
The thing is, though, that you need like 3 or 4 3DSs in the room.
Yeah, and so as of right now, honestly, only one of our friends owns a 3DS.
Exactly.
So that's like, but when we go further into the news,
does Akash have a 3DS?
Oh yeah, I think his bitch asked us.
Yeah.
Once again, everybody, Akash is not here with us today. It's the second time.
Why do we do this to him?
Yeah, Akash isn't here. This is Edwin. It's gonna sound like episode 2 again. Like, Akash isn't here. This is Edwin. This is Greg. And Akash isn't here today.
God, poor kid. He doesn't deserve half the shit we give him.
I feel like we make him out to be like this villainous person, but it's like he didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly.
But because we make it out to be like that, it starts sounding like it's just like
bro, be like, oh man, BP dumped oil into the Atlantic. Fucking Akash.
yeah, great Akash. Guess the South Pacific doesn't fucking guess the Gulf doesn't mean any work, Akash. Fucker. And you just gotta look him in the eye when you say this shit. Like, yeah, fucking. My fucking uncle works there, bitch. No, but wait, let's not rag on Akash. But
So Akash, moral story, Akash is in here.
moral of the story is, not only Akash is in here, Akash owns a 3DS.
Yes.
So we have two friends which we know that own 3DS. And I don't want to say three because Adam and Jason are twofer. All right, they own
them together make up one unit.
Though they
one unit of friend.
Though they own two, I feel the family owns two. I don't feel like one
The thing is, they didn't even want the second one. Like,
the second one was given to them as a gift, so only one was meant to was bought because they wanted it. So we only know of some of two DSs which were bought because they wanted it. So
3DSs exist amongst our friends, but
Yes.
only two were bought.
Okay. And that's just to clear that up with everybody. So we don't own.
You can draw a diagram on this.
This is gonna show you right here, friend. The friend to 3DS ratio of the 200 plus friends that we know. Oh, maybe about 60, 70 of them play games, and maybe about 2-3 of them actually own 3DS. But though that statistic is not true, I mean, let's be real, probably could be. But the 3DS is I mean, it's doing better than the Wii U in terms of actual sales. I mean, in terms of give a fuck ability, like the 3DS right now is at a higher list than like the Wii U might ever be, ever. But though we don't own 3DSs, I feel we would in the future. And when we do in the future, then a game like Mario Party would make sense. I like that it's releasing in fall because by then, because of the next news we'll be announcing, we'll probably own a 3DS.
Sure.
So if we do own a 3DS because of the next news that I'm about to announce, then by fall this game makes sense. And T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2. No, I'm not gonna do this because the next thing we will be talking about, I'm not getting that shit. But
I know. Next thing.
Some more things were announced. Donkey Kong Returns 3D, I think was already announced, but I think it might have been already announced. But they're announcing a release date for it anyway. Okay. It's going to be released in May, the new 3DS Donkey Kong Returns game. And just to let people know this, that it's not being done by Retro. Retro is not doing the new Donkey Kong Returns.
Which to me kind of hurts.
It's semi.
I don't know if you played the new Donkey Kong.
It's nasty.
Fuck you. Clarify this. I liked the new Donkey Kong Country Return. I thought it was a good game. Granted, the waggle in the game wasn't
broken. There's no reason.
There
wasn't even a reason for that to be in there.
It wasn't necessary, but with that aside, the game was good. I freaking loved it. That was good. Good platforming fun, and brought me back to what Rare it didn't. I mean, they didn't do it as well. I mean, let's be honest. You can't do it as well as Rare, but they did it.
No one can. It's not possible.
It was a very nice feel to it. I thoroughly enjoyed Donkey Kong Country Return.
I liked it on its own merits. I don't like it as a Donkey Kong game. I don't like the bizarre forward control you have where a Donkey Kong feels like he's like a retarded tank. Or I also don't like the weird feeling when you start moving, he's moving like he's retarded. He starts moving really slow. He literally goes from Down syndrome. He literally goes from Down syndrome to cross country runner in maybe 5-6 seconds. So it's just.
I guess I'm just thinking that feeling.
If you play the Sonic 4 reboot.
Episodic one.
Play the demo. When you play the demo, you'll know what I mean. If it isn't an immediate bam fast, Sonic starts walking really slow before he builds up. So literally when you're running really, really fast, and let's say you have to stop to kill something or something slows you down, you feel like shit. You just feel like fucking god damn it. You're great, now I have to start walking like a retard again and then start building my momentum. That's the feeling you get. So I don't really like that bizarre feeling of you're slowing down, because of the Donkey Kong games, it's always been this really fast forward momentum. You actually walked and ran at the equal pace. When you started walking, it wasn't a build up. You immediately started walking. With Donkey Kong, he starts walking really slow and then builds up to a sprint and then a run. That weird feeling is what made me didn't really like a lot of it. I mean, I liked the kart stuff. The kart stuff they did was over the top, crazy. That was really crazy. So I think for the 3DS version, that's going to be its highlight. That's going to be the thing a lot of people would probably give a fuck about it. But I don't know how good it's going to be, considering I personally didn't really like Rare's version, but not Rare. Excuse me. Oh god. Kill me.
You said it. You heard it.
Oh god, bring me that gun over there. No, I personally didn't like Retro's version. I just chosen those words wisely. But I personally didn't like Retro's version. So this new version is actually being done by another studio that made a launch title for the Wii U, I believe, or a launch title. It might have been a launch title for the Wii U or this other like shovelware 3DS game. But apparently, some like no-name team, to my understanding, is making this game for May. And the fact that they're kind of announcing it within like months of it being announced is kind of telling. So that's one of the games that are being announced there. They announced Yoshi's Island for the 3DS, but I didn't see any. I mean, they showed gameplay stuff, but I didn't actually know. I didn't see a release date.
Question: is it a remake or is it a completely new game?
I actually think it's a new game. I haven't seen anything about it being like a remake. It's just Yoshi's Island 3DS, which is actually interesting.
For sure, that has a give a fuck worthy.
You very much should give a fuck ability. But some other news to talk about the 3DS. Our favorite thing to talk about the 3DS is this is the reason why Craig Robinson most likely is buying a 3DS right now. Shin Megami Tensei 4 has been announced to be released July 16th. So Craig Robinson's giving a fuck. Craig Robinson's girlfriend is celebrating this news. Oh no, she's actually celebrating something about Mario Party. I don't think she doesn't give a fuck.
I don't think she's too much of a fuck about Shin Megami Tensei, but.
Ooh, Greg's scaring you. Shin Megami Tensei.
Like lost air in my lungs the first time I heard that.
I don't even know what's going on with the game. It's supposed to be set in modern times, but there's this other thing where it's like also set in like this like medieval type of time.
Well,
I don't know what's going on.
Here's what's happening with that. It's got Shin Megami Tensei on it, so you're gonna buy it.
Yeah, see,
that's all it needs to be said. It's gonna be an awesome RPG.
Craig's like, never mind the details.
Right?
Getting it.
Right?
No way to time with that silly
SMT forever, man. Anything they produce is always it's to me it's been gold. I freaking love Atlas's RPGs.
Yeah, so in my opinion, Atlas is good enough that it's like I'm definitely gonna get Shin Megami Tensei 4. I mean, of course, I'm gonna look at some of the previews for it. Just to get myself hyped up to even see if I should care. But I definitely see me getting that game. I personally is actually most hyped up for Animal Crossing because me being a big, huge Animal Crossing fan. Animal Crossing is coming out, I think it's June 9th.
June 9th?
I think I have it on my calendar on my phone somewhere, but it's
June. Oh, there you go. You're ready for it.
Pre-ordered it. But June 9th is when Animal Crossing is going to be coming out, and I'm going to be carrying it in July, the next month following. Craig Robinson's going to get his 3DS for Shin Megami. As you may see, I'm getting mine for an existing IP. Craig is getting his for a new game. I don't want to say new. Well, it's sort of because it's a new game.
Yeah,
it's not
it's
really
an established name though.
Yes. Well, so you're getting it for a new IP game. An established IP, but a new game.
Yes.
Good. So we're definitely getting ours for different reasons. I'm getting mine for your traditional Nintendo game, finally came out you wanted. Reason Craig getting is for a game that he might have otherwise not actually got. I mean, he on a system he otherwise might have not gotten had that game and not released. So,
bless you.
Thank you. Big ups on Nintendo or whatever strings they had to pull to get that game on that system.
Oh, for sure.
Because Atlas, from my understanding, though they do make a lot of DS games, they made a lot of PSP games. If to my understanding, I think the entire Persona series is actually on the PSP.
I actually own the first Persona for the PSP.
And there you go. Yeah. So it's kind of a big deal to have Atlas make one of these games for a Nintendo system. I mean, though they've done like the Devil Summer, and I think it's something Soul Hacker and some other. Yeah. They've done some RPGs on there, but they're high class RPGs in my opinion, which go for Persona and Devil Summoner seem to lie on like the PlayStation series. So it's actually whatever strings Nintendo had to push to get that IP on that system was a great deal, and it was a good thing they did it because Craig otherwise may not even own the 3DS had they had not done this deal. So that's definitely something to look out for. It's going to be one of the top RPGs that releases this year. It looks like it's going to be one of the top RPGs because it's Atlas. So
the only thing that could to me that could probably come close to that to make another Mario Luigi RPG, something like that. Because I love those games. The Mario Luigi RPGs, like Superstar Sagas.
I think they are making one. Good. They're making another Mario and Luigi game where do something like that. Or I might be thinking of Inside Story, which already released.
Yeah, Inside Story is already out.
Okay, so that's the game I was thinking of.
Oh man, that game was awesome.
That was good.
I liked that game.
Was it for the 3DS?
Yeah, no, it was for the DS.
Oh, so the DS?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
the DS.
That's a late DS game then.
Oh man, great game.
That's a game to look forward to then, because I might pick that up. I'll borrow that from Adam.
Oh, yeah, Adam's got it.
He's our local Nintendo fan.
Adam's our Nintendo go-to guy.
He is. All right. When Adam says a game is bad, he's not playing.
If he says a Nintendo franchise game is bad,
it's
you
bad.
stay the fuck away from that.
It's bad because Adam's played he's not only just played majority of like the main IPs from Nintendo, he's played majority of them twice. I've literally seen Adam go through Ocarina of Time, like mind you, almost every version of this game probably 2 times. So it's like
every single version that's ever come out.
So it's like that's actually a lot, and I'm not even exaggerating. It's actually probably more than what I stated.
Man plays video games.
Very much so. So when I state my opinion about this next game, then you know it is to be true. So Links to the Past 2 was announced, or LTTP 2.
Should you be excited?
Nope. Though a lot of people, though when you hear Links to the Past 2, that sounds like that would be like the biggest game.
It brings up a lot of nostalgia.
Yeah, if you were to think that this would be the one Nintendo game they announced at Nintendo Direct that would make you like wet your pants of like fanboyness, it isn't. What I've seen from it was not really good. It was like what I read on it was kind of weird. It was like I'm watching it and I'm seeing some of the like boss battles, and the boss battle of the worm was the same actual boss battle that was actually in the first Links to the Past.
I'm pretty sure you actually fight that boss twice in Links to the Past, because in the last Ganon Temple you have to fight everybody from the Light World again. So you literally, that boss that you fought twice in the first Links to the Past will also be in Links to the Past too.
I don't say you're not fighting him again for the third time. You're actually just playing the first game again. That's what I'm thinking. So the actual overworld of this game is actually the first. It's actually the same overworld from Links to the Past 1, which doesn't really make any sense. So we might as well just say that this is Links to the Past 1. But they added that Link is you see Link from a top down perspective like you do in Links to the Past, but as you see Links to the Past, as you see the little top-down mode in Links to the Past, there's a paper wing. He's made of paper, and he's not made of paper, but there's something that he has that makes him really thin, and he goes against like walls to turn corners to get to other areas. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute, didn't you do this in Super Mario 3D Paper or something?
Yeah, Super Paper Mario.
Yes. So I was like, didn't you guys do this to that? So I didn't understand what was going on with that, because to my understanding, this is sort of what was already done with that game. So the idea that it's almost like the Yoshi game that's coming out for the Wii U, where it's like that yarn game.
Yoshi's Yarn. Yeah.
Yes, it's like you had a Kirby game just do this.
Yeah.
What's that different about having a Yoshi do this?
That announcement was kind of weird.
It was, and it was one of these things where it's like, man, you guys are just playing out.
I guess Kirby's Epic Yarn was so good that we needed a yarn-based game out of every single Nintendo.
Yes, it was just like no.
We're gonna get that F-Zero yarn. You're gonna have that.
That's horrible.
Terrible. No, I agree.
And so basically, that's what this is. This is like, oh well, you got some Paper Mario feature, and it's essentially Links. In my opinion, it's the Links to the Past 1 from what I've seen. It's nothing. I don't even know why there's a 2 behind it. But Adam was stating that he's not going to get it. So Adam buys every single Zelda game. Adam's bought for the 3DS. He bought Ocarina of Time despite it being the same damn game. In fact, there are people that stated Ocarina of Time looked worse on the 3DS than on the 64, which is kind of really crazy. But he bought that. He buys almost every single. He's gonna buy every single Zelda game. I don't know if Devin's ever not bought a Zelda game. So even the remakes and even the ports of the ports. So for him to say he won't get this and it's not even a port, and they're not saying it's a remake or anything, they're saying it's 2.
Yeah, to me, if you slap a 2 at the end of it, it's like that in itself is telling me that it's not a remake.
Yeah,
it's if it is a remake, why put a 2 at the end of that?
Yes, so it's like I'm sure there's different stuff inside of it, but it's like the differences in it. And the problem I have with Nintendo is I've over the years kind of lost my trust for when they hype certain games. Like, let's say, for instance, Animal Crossing. Mm-hmm. Any of the Animal Crossings that release after the first one, I can't consider a sequel to the series because they're such minor things. But Nintendo's the type of company that where they make it sound like this is just the brand new Animal Crossing game. In reality, it's simply just a regular Animal Crossing game with a couple of new features. So they've definitely gone out of their way to make it seem like this is so much new features and so important. And it isn't. So this is what I'm feeling with this game, because they're not telling me, oh, well, this is Links to the Past 2, I should care. They're telling me that, oh yeah, this is Nintendo telling you this is Links to the Past 2. Do we really know it's that, or are you guys just overhyping a lot of small things? So I definitely think that they're overhyping it, and I won't be surprised if it's essentially Links to the Past 1 with a couple new bosses and a couple of different tweaks with this whole paper thing. Yeah. And that kind of saddens me that they'll even go to those.
That's kind of weird in itself. Again, like
that they'll even go to those links.
If
they'll go to those links, disgust me. If they'll really go to that reach.
It's just, to me, it's just an odd design choice. It's like you had such a clear and distinct world in Links to the Past that, like, okay, like it's like you created this world. You had a way of traversing it. You had, like, he played his little ocarina, the bird came, swooped him down, traveled. You had this whole world set up around everything in Links to the Past. And now you're tweaking it, you're changing it. To me, it's like, why do that when you can just make a new 2D Zelda?
That's very true.
You know, it's like, just make a new 2D Zelda, just give it a new overworld, create the same new dungeons that you say you're going to do for Links to the Past 2, put those in that game, and just redo the overworld.
Agreed.
It's like, what's the point of taking the old world map, if not for just being lazy and having that map design?
It starts to make me wonder how much work has really been truly done on the game. It also makes me wonder, even for nostalgia purposes, we have Links to the Past. We have it on Virtual Console, we have it on Game Boy Advance, we have it on so many damn systems, to the point where it's like, we have the original, we have the port, we have the port of the port, we got the Virtual Console version, digital version. There's so many versions of this one game that it gets to a point where it's like, why are we still getting the same old of this game? Though I know they're doing it for nostalgic purposes, to be like, oh yeah, remember when you played this? But though I love the game, and I really, that's my favorite Zelda game, is Links to the Past, even more so than Ocarina of Time is Links to the Past. But the problem I have is that you're trying to sell on nostalgia. Why can't you create new nostalgia? Where is these new games to give us that nostalgia? Because from what I've noticed, they're telling us about these old times. Why aren't you creating the new times?
Yeah.
Give us the new Zelda to say, man, those were good times. So we haven't been seeing that from them, like, a lot. Like, it's getting to a point where it's like you start to wonder what's going on with this company, that you're not really getting any new IPs anymore.
Right. No, I completely agree. It's like, you can show us, man, these old times were great, by creating an entirely new game in that same old vein, you know? Like,
yeah, that's true.
It's just something that can easily be done. You don't have to keep on rehashing the same old, like, the same exact thing to say, oh man, you know why? It's like saying, like, you know why I really liked the old Links to the Past game? Because Link's house was there. When I went up, it led to the castle.
Yes.
And it's like, it's not because of the whole layout of the world that makes me nostalgic. It's the gameplay style and the way it plays that makes it cool. It makes it like, oh man, I love those games.
Very true. So I definitely don't like that they're continuing to do that. Hopefully in the future they'll do something with new IPs. I actually personally think they're content. I think they've been content for a long time with the IPs that they're working on. Mm-hmm. They've been okay with it. It's almost as if they don't want to waste the time or risk on new IPs. It's like they're very comfortable in the spot that they're in. And I personally blame this because of the sales of their system. The sales of their system seem to sell so damn well that it's almost as if they don't really care about the content they release, because the system will sell anyway. When you have 100 million Wii sell, you would think that would equal the most games that they would make. In reality, we got same old, and even when Skyward Sword was done, you have an audience with 100 million units out, and they dropped the system like a bad habit. To date, to understand, there is no more Wii games being made by Nintendo as a publisher, which would actually bring me to one of my next points. One of my next points is that Nintendo is actually dropping online support for the Wii this summer. I'm not sure if it's June or July or one of the dates, but it's this summer they're dropping support for.
To me, that's like
for it.
To me, that's like amputating a bum leg. You know, it's like it's really not a crazy loss for the system, because let's be honest, like, who played their Wii for the online support?
That's true.
Like, I get what you're saying though. It's like you literally, like, the Wii U just came out and then poof,
Yes.
There goes.
I mean, the problem I have is like, shit, the Wii U's not even out 6 months and they're already cutting support of the next system.
No, I agree.
I feel it's like, I mean, for a show of good faith, 100 million people purchased your damn system and you won't even keep the online that you gave them is one of these things where it's like, this goes back to what I stated with this trust. You start to lose the trust from the same company because it's like they're still. I mean, we know Smash Brothers plays like crap online, but look, there's Mario Kart. There's a lot of games that play online that are actually
I was
good.
just talking about Jason. Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing City Folk has
really
online.
as well.
So it's like to have a game like that ran really, really good online. I know the Wii U is, I believe, the Wii U is backwards compatible with the Wii. So to hear that they're cutting online for the system, it's not even just for the system, but for the games that are clearly going to be running on the system online to be cut for, is kind of saddened to know that that's now no longer going to be there. So even if I would have wanted to get City Folk, if I get a Wii U and I might want to get City Folk in preparation for the next Animal Crossing, knowing that I can't even use one of the functions because the online for that version of the game no longer exists, is silly to me. It's one of these things that says, why should I be hopeful for your aspirations for the future of online now when look how quick you cut the online for your previous system? So that's for a show of good faith, I personally wish that they probably kept a little bit support a little bit longer. No, so that's going to be happening. Another announcement thing in terms of updates and in terms of online is the Wii U is apparently getting Virtual Console online, and which is a good thing because I actually thought they already had Virtual Console, but there's going to be a Wii U Spring update. After this Wii U Spring update, you're going to be getting the Wii U Virtual Console, and on the Wii U Virtual Console, you're going to be getting Earthbound. So apparently they're bringing a Western version of Earthbound on the Virtual Console for everybody. Actually, I don't want to say Western version because Earthbound has always been a Western game, I guess. But they're bringing it to the Virtual Console for the Wii U game.
Word. I mean, I'm sorry. I was lost in transit. But we're talking about the Virtual Console now, right?
Yes.
Wii U. I mean, to me, like, you have all these games on the original Virtual Console. They're basically just porting everything from the old Virtual Console and they're bringing it to the new Wii U Virtual Console? I heard a lot of this craziness about how like you have to rebuy your Virtual Console games for Wii U now and all that.
Because I'm not 100% on that, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for one reason. It's that Nintendo's infrastructure for this wasn't solid. If you know with PSN is that when you have PSN, your ID is on there. So now that you have, when you log into PSN, it's tied to whatever email account you have. Right. So if your PlayStation 3 explodes tomorrow, all the games you bought, you still could re-download off of that account. You still paid for them. Your name's still on it. These things can't happen.
I just got that visual. I'm sitting here playing Bioshock. You're like, whoa. Hello.
And so it's like if something like that happens, you're so safe. I mean, you'll be okay because I don't worry too much if something happens to my PlayStation 3. Just mainly because I still have all the down games I could download anyway. Right. So it's like with the Wii U, with the Wii in general, the problem had it was their online infrastructure. When I saw my friends Adam and Jason, our good friends Adam and Jason, downloading games for it. When I seen how you did it, there's no login screen. No. There's no name you put in. In fact, you're simply just putting money on the account and downloading the game. So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Your infrastructure by default is now broken because it means that every game all these 100 million people are probably going to purchase will essentially die when Virtual Console dies. Yes. Because once it's gone and once there's no longer an infrastructure for that, when your system explodes or something happens to it or dies or anything, it now means that those games you bought are gone forever. There's no account it's tied to. Your name's not on it. Nothing's on it to prove you ever purchased any of these things. Exactly. So it's kind of scary that why would a company do something like this? I mean, I know they're not Microsoft, they're not Sony, they're not any of these like Valve or anything like that. But I mean, fuck me, you gotta at least have a damn login to state you bought these things tied to some other account outside of the actual system. Exactly. This is just idiocy.
It's almost like you're buying that shit on like the black market.
Yes, yes, and it's strange because it's like
some under the table transactions going on.
we're not even saying this about like this ghetto brand of anything. We're saying this about Nintendo, and this is a very big company. And to say this about a company this big, that you guys still can't get it together with online is starting to get strange and starting to get even more sad. So it's like with the virtual console coming out for the Wii U, it's going to be that you're essentially going to have to rebuy any of those games. So you won't have to. You clearly could still have your Wii. You just make sure that shit doesn't break. But with the Wii U, I believe they're probably doing that same thing. So I wouldn't shock me if you have to rebuy them, because I don't see a possible way to bring any of those games over. Which brings me a little bit to my next point here. So there was some Wii U news, Super Luigi U, because Nintendo's doing this whole Luigi thing going on. Apparently, Super Luigi U is supposed to come out. I didn't really have a date for it, but it's supposed to be Luigi-focused new Super Mario Brothers. I don't want to get too much into that because I don't really like what they're doing with this.
Nothing too special about it. It's like, have you played Super Mario Bros. Wii? Well, guess what? Now it's that when you boot it up, first player is going to be Luigi, and you're going to play that game. So if you're into that sort of thing, congrats, you got another one. If not, it's more of the same. There's really nothing to talk about with Super Luigi U. It's like, Nintendo's doing this whole, like you said, Nintendo's doing this whole Luigi thing, I guess. I don't know if they feel bad.
They got that gimmick going on. So they got that gimmick going on.
Everyone needs Luigi, so we're going to give him some games. So, no. It's really not that important. It's really like you doing this isn't something special. It isn't something nice that you're doing for Luigi. It means nothing. It's a marketing ploy.
Agreed. That's how I looked at it. I never looked at it as anything serious enough to like.
Okay, sure, yeah. Luigi's like the blunt of a couple jokes in the gaming community for sure. But to say that, oh man, we need to stop those jokes. It's hurting Luigi's feelings. It's like, shut up. It's a freaking game character.
I feel they're doing it for a marketing point because I guess
sure.
they're trying to get more attention off the other main characters to bring some sort of significance to them. But the problem I have is like they themselves have done this to themselves. I personally feel
like because of that, like am I to be expecting like a Waluigi game coming up soon?
Is
that what we need as well? Am I gonna get a super special, Shy Guy game? Is that what they want?
That's what's gonna happen. And I feel that they're doing this to like branch out on different games easier because they've made such a significant thing with Mario. My problem I have is, though I like Mario and I like the cast of Nintendo characters that they have, is don't be scared to make new IPs. I have a problem with that. If you think about the GameCube days when you got Pikmin, you got Animal Crossing, and Luigi's Mansion, these are all three new IPs. Now, that's still more than anything we got on the Wii. To my understanding, I can't even name you a single new IP that was released on the Wii by Nintendo that they published that was even successful or anybody's talking about or caring about it. You're gonna have some trouble, buddy. And Craig's
you look at like from like the GameCube days, you had like Metroid Prime. A completely reimagining.
In some respect, I would say Metroid Prime's a new IP because I don't see Metroid as
a completely different game.
It is. Yeah. It's so different that I actually don't really see the Prime series anything like the original. Exactly. And even if you like the original Metroid series, I don't know what you would like from the Prime series.
Exactly.
They're different games. So I would say that's 4. So to come out with 4 new IPs is a big deal, and the idea that I can't. For the love of me, none of us could name a single one for the Wii. And the scary problem is I can't even name one for the Wii U. Now, I know a lot of people are trying to say, what's that game called? It's called something Launch 5, or it's like this weird game, and I forget what the team... Platinum Games is doing it. But Platinum Games is doing a new IP for the Wii U, and it's this little weird top-down game where these little people are running around. But they're doing... And Nintendo's publishing it. I think Nintendo's publishing it. So it's one of the very few new IPs that is on the Wii U, but it's nothing...
Yeah. It's not... To say that's like a saving grace.
No, it's not as fabulous and as crazy as any of those 4 games we talked about on the GameCube. Not even a little bit. So with those games being as significant as they were in terms of brand new IPs, the only other game I can think of is that X game that's being made by the team that did the Xenosaga series. This is the only game that I could think of that's a new IP. Now, what new IPs do a lot of times is bring in new fans. I'm a fan of a lot of the old school Nintendo things, but I'm the type of fan where it's like, though I I have reasons for why I like the series. I'm not tied to that series, like Zelda with Ocarina of Time. Now, I love the idea that you had your house, you left to go to your house, and you do just go on this grand adventure. You can go anywhere, and I love that feeling with that. But as the series continued on, and it began to shrink, and it began to essentially give you just more of the same that Ocarina of Time gave you, other series in my life began to open doors for me, like the Elder Scrolls series. It gave me that same feeling of, well, now I could go anywhere. Now I could search more places. It essentially expanded that fun factor in my mind of exploration. Now, when you're a child and you're playing Ocarina of Time, it's a big deal. But I've never got that feeling of, wow, I could search all these areas until I played an Elder Scrolls game, because I never got that feeling again. So it's one of those things where once you get that feeling, you can't get it back again. Elder Scrolls gave it back to me again. So I got that more and heightened. I could search more places, do more things.
Yeah.
So Nintendo, in my opinion, didn't progress that series to that natural next evolutionary step of saying, you know what, let's make it bigger, let's make it grander, more dungeons, do more stuff, more. They didn't do that. They essentially kind of went down this route where they're essentially almost like making the same game twice or three times, and it kind of got, it really got annoying.
And
so
to me, like, it's getting to the point like Nintendo's following such a formula now, especially with like, the formula is like it's almost like to the T though. It's literally to the T. Like you have Link. He starts off in his house. He goes off. Something happens in his main town. He needs to go out. He needs to collect 7 of something. In his main town, he's gonna find a partner. Be it Navi. Be it that what was that one weird black chick from Twilight Princess? You had the Fee chick from Skyward Sword. Literally, you always get some sort of friend to follow you around and tell you how to play the game.
I remember that.
And then you may collect like 3 of something and then 7 of something else to go fight Ganon.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
The same thing.
Basically, you got 4 dungeons. Every single dungeon gives you a weapon to beget the next dungeon to kill the next guy. And then after you do that, you're going to go here, do a little collect-a-thon, get the sword, kill the guy, get the girl.
Well, especially like Twilight Princess did it. I didn't mind it so much in Twilight Princess because I guess it was like the first time they did it. But then like I didn't finish Skyward Sword. I can't really say, but I can only assume it happened in Twilight Sword too. Twilight Sword now. Skyward Sword. So what happens there is like you get that weapon or that item that's only good for that one dungeon. You know what I mean?
It's classic. Honestly, it's classic Nintendo fare. Yeah. And the problem I have with that personally, gameplay wise, is it tells me your developers or creators have not matured. And I don't want to say that in the negative. I'm trying to say they haven't got to a point where they're progressing naturally as developers.
No, I agree.
Because it's almost like trying to say, look, we're in a world where we found out it makes more sense to bring significance to your horse if there are other horses. That it makes more sense to bring significance to the horse you have if you let you ride other horses. Epona is a big thing in that game. It's the only horse. Yeah. Link rides no other horse. So if you had multiple horses, now Epona is the strongest, the fastest. It's now your personal favorite. It has now become something significant. If you put more NPCs in this world, it brings significance to specific people. Not this dead world where there's one guy on one farm in this one city with 12 people in the town. It's that, and you think because in 64 days, clearly they can't do that. It doesn't have that much power to do such a thing. But when the series continues on and you have all this power to do this and you don't, it's almost like trying to say, what have you learned from your fellow developers that you're not learning how to get people feeling this is a real world?
Like let's just be honest. Like look at the Hyrule from Twilight Princess. Like if you told me like, oh man, think about the Twilight. Like you tell me think about the Hyrule from Ocarina of Time. I'm gonna tell you you're gonna have that first room where you walk across the bridge. You have that one door to the side that leads to the room with all the pots. You went through to the courtyard, had those kids dancing in the courtyard, you had all those 2 ladies, the people were talking to each other, that had that one cycling animation. Like, you remember all that stuff in that run.
Very much so.
Asked me to explain the Hyrule from Twilight Princess, I just remember darkness. I just remember it was dark. That was it. That's all I remember from that Hyrule, because it was so bland and so there was like there was no one there. Yes. There was no one that you actually interacted with to make me feel like, this is Hyrule. Like, this is a place that I can go to.
And that's 100% how I feel about the series, is that though the memories we recount as kids from Ocarina of Time in the early series, we recount those as kids as mega moments in our mind. How do you now remake that moment bigger for us now. That doesn't mean give us the same thing. It means you now have to meet our expectations to what we know is possible. At the time in Ocarina of Time release, there was no other game that was doing it like this.
Sure.
So as of right now, you could name MMOs that are doing this bigger. You could name any series, Elder Scrolls. It doesn't really matter. You could name majority Dragon Age, majority of Dark. You could any RPG series. Period.
Right.
You could name that are doing it to that level. So what I'm trying to say,
like Assassin's Creed,
even Assassin's Creed, I look at it in my mind. We're wowed by that when we were younger because there was nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
You now need to top this as developers.
Sure.
You can't just say, "Oh, 12 people in the town, let's call it a day." No, you need to say, "I've experienced that already.
Mm-hmm.
More, bigger, and better." What can you do to make me think this is a livable, breathable world?
Yeah.
Yes, I know Zelda's about fun. Yes, I know it's about doing the dungeon stuff. But in my opinion, as a child, it's about believability.
It used to be, and it used to be about exploration.
Very true.
But you don't get that no more.
Yes, I feel you lose the sense of exploration when you feel every place you're going to is heavily scripted and heavily directed that you need to go there. Mm-hmm. That's when you start losing that. In any of the Elder Scrolls game, and I know we discussed this a couple of times, you get that feeling like
a recurring theme.
Yes, when you get that feeling of you feel overpowered or you feel that this is really, really, really big and expansive, and you get the idea that when you go inside of a dungeon, you've had that feeling that you're the first to go inside this dungeon. And I don't want to make it sound cliche like that, but when you go in, because there's hundreds upon hundreds in Fallout and in Elder Scrolls, there are literally hundreds of dungeons in a single game. You get that feeling that when you explore a dungeon every night or every other night you explore a dungeon, you get the feeling of I could have explored this dungeon X number of hours into the game, but I'm exploring it now. So you get that feeling of I'm exploring something that's really new to what I'm seeing, versus on a Zelda game, because there's only 7 dungeons, 5 dungeons, 4 dungeons, because there's only that limited number amount. When you go to the dungeon, you know every little area is of an importance. Yeah. So you get the problem of you're not exploring it with the eye of I'm seeing something that I otherwise may have not have seen had I taken this turn. You're getting something that it's one of the 5 chances I have to see this. In fact, majority of the time you have to go to that dungeon.
Right.
There is no I'll choose to go here, I'll choose to go there. I do like that they're rebooting the series to randomize dungeon, not randomize, but you could get the dungeons in any other order. But I want it to be completely turned on top of its head, and it needs to be brought up to date with every other game series. Zelda has never lied on the gaming universe of being at the bottom until now. Ocarina of Time at the time was never this bottom dwelling game that was just crappy. That was an absolutely revolutionary game that we could tell you no other RPG, no other adventure game, no other action game brought it to that level that they brought it.
Sure.
Now, if you look at, let's say, even Wind Waker is already dated.
Yeah.
When Wind Waker released, its ideas and gameplay stuff was already dated. There were other games that were doing it bigger, more expansive, more interesting. And the series continued along this path of being the same way. So I feel like if you keep stagnating the series, you're going to lose some of those core fans, because my experience of what I like to explore is not being met by a Zelda anymore. It's being met by Elder Scrolls. Right. So you could get me back when you show me, oh yeah, there's 100 dungeons in our Zelda game. You could get me back when you tell me, remember that crossbow you got? You could use it in the next 100 dungeons. Oh yeah, remember that boss you're going to fight? You're going to fight him randomly at any one of these. You've now given me that exploration feeling back. When you tell me you could pick any of these horses, now it doesn't matter to opponent. It matters it's my horse. I chose it. It's mine. You get the feeling that you're not being heavily directed. You're now free to play your adventure. I know they couldn't do this in the previous Zeldas. I know this was something that I can't blame them for what they didn't do in the originals. I understand that. My problem is that it was not progressively done through the series. It was almost as if they stayed with the niche of being the first to do it, yet they didn't propel their own idea. They let others do it, and others did it so much better to the point where to get that experience, you went to them. You didn't go to the people.
Yeah, I guess the overall the main point is the Zelda franchise just isn't evolving.
No, and
it's just it's stagnated. They're relying on a particular formula. It's just getting bland. It's getting stale.
I personally really, really, really love that they are revamping it. That's a big mature thing for Zelda, for Nintendo to even say we're adding these things, and to say this we're saying we're making Zelda open world. It's almost like an admittance of defeat in some respect, almost like trying to say, okay, maybe our ideas of making Zeldas these same ways weren't right. I've never ever heard an IP or any game really to ever come out and have the president of the company come out to say something like, yeah, we're changing this, that, and the third of the next game. To say this is almost like you're trying to bring this big announcement to say, guess what, guys? Okay, now it's a good Zelda. Or now is the change.
We're going to push it forward now. We're actually going to
yes. So it's an admittance that maybe something wasn't right. And I'm happy that they're doing this because this is the kick in the pants the series absolutely needs right now.
It'll definitely be interesting to see what's going on with the next Zelda game.
Yes. And another thing to note, not on the Zelda game, but just on IPs in general, which I was going to say earlier before, the IPs that we've seen being released that we might be getting tired of, or the IPs that, okay, you saw us talking about, we didn't really like what's going on with the new Super Mario Brothers. Donkey Kong game is not my, flavor of the month. A lot of these games are not games a lot of us really care about too much. So this is what those 4 new IPs did for us. Animal Crossing made me buy a GameCube. Animal Crossing's make me buy a 3DS. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is making you buy a 3DS. Yes. It's showing that, though I didn't care for some of those other Nintendo IPs, there was something that made me say, you know what, I don't like Nintendo's IPs before that generation, maybe I'll jump in Animal Crossing. Right. You might have said, you know what, I don't like any of Nintendo's IPs this generation, you know what, maybe I'll jump into Shin Megami Tensei. So it's one of these things that lends you to that. But the game that's going to keep you doing it won't be Shin Megami Tensei for the reason that next Shin Megami Tensei may not be on the 3DS.
Sure.
It has to do with Nintendo. And Nintendo's making that game X by the creators that made Xenosaga. That's the game that will make me want to buy a Wii U. Now, if Nintendo had 4 X's, so to speak, by 4 different developers, all on the Nintendo platform, 4 different IPs, I would already own a Wii U.
Right.
It's at a point where it's like, if you show me those, I grew weary of the Nintendo IPs they're releasing.
Right.
I'm not saying I hate the company. I just don't like some of the IPs that they're releasing. So if they go and show me something like a game like X, that's enough to make me say, you know what, maybe I'll jump on board that game. Sure. That's what they need to do. It's not saying get rid of Mario, get rid of Zelda. It's just saying you have the money, buy the teams, make me want the system again.
Like I said, don't be afraid to make a new IP. Show us something cool. Show us something you can actually do with this system.
So it's like,
don't just rehash the same ideas, but make it look a little bit prettier.
Yes. So hopefully we'll have more to discuss on X. X is like a game we're going to be discussing a lot on because it looks like a game that I think is up like all of our alleys. It's very Monster Hunter-y and very mechy and like all the cool things that we all like. So and before we end our podcast, we have one more thing to discuss with you guys today. A little bit 720 rumors that are like floating around. But today is April 21st. It is exactly 1 month to the rumored date that Microsoft will announce the Xbox 720, which is rumored to be announced on May 21st from VG Leaks. So, of a lot of the VG leaks that released, Adam Orth was like fired or some shit. They fired him.
For good reason. For good reason. You know what was coming.
That was for good reason. You probably shouldn't have been saying that crap.
Yeah,
but
he opened his mouth a little too wide.
For some of the leaks that I've read, I've heard they've changed some of the leaks that I've read previously, and it seems that I think Microsoft changed something because the same people from Kotaku and Edge and VG Leaks and some other sites are now showing a different skew. It's almost like when Sony changed the thing from 4 gigs to 8 gigs. When Sony changed their thing from 4 gigs to 8 gigs, there was 2 leaks. There was a leak for 4 gigs and a leak for 8 gigs.
Right.
Sony, after they announced the PlayStation 4, actually came out and said, yes, the PlayStation 4 was originally 4 gigs. So it kind of confirmed that those leaks were originally true. Even though like there was other leaks, these were true. So I feel that the change between it is true. I don't know if the change is because of the outrage that Adam Orth might have caused. I don't know if it's because of the outrage that's coming from the internet. People always talk about good publicity. Any publicity is good publicity, but there's no way that shows up.
Hell no.
People were stating they weren't going to buy the system, and I don't really know how that's a great thing. But hopefully that is changed because knowing Microsoft, they're the type of company, they may not really care what people think when they release the system. I mean, if you think about all the people that have been kind of like begging them to like make core games, like they still went and bought studios for Kinect, so I'm not really sure if they would care enough to go back and change the always online thing.
Right.
On part of the spectrum, you have one of the new leaks is from a source which has been heard to be a proven source. He states that he's not sure whether always online has anything to pertain to games. So he states he's not sure, but another source from Kotaku states that the new dev kits that they got in from the new leaks it's still always online. You still have to have it to work. Another thing that neither of these guys seem to be addressing is that the Blu-ray thing. You have to install the games on from the Blu-ray drive. You have to install them on a hard drive,
Right.
so you don't use it to play games. And though everyone's focused on this always online thing, that seems to be the one thing people should be focusing on. Because if anything's going to stop you from playing used games, it's probably that. If anything, if the game installs and you no longer need the disc, you just throw it in the garbage. It means that it's now tied to this drive or the account or whatever.
Even if you do try to sell it, the disc is going to know that it's been
Yes.
downloaded before,
Yes.
so it's going to say no.
Yes, so I feel that if that's the case, if it's going to be something like that, I think people are focusing their anger towards the wrong direction. I think Microsoft may end up doing it either way, but the fact that they might have changed the actual specs, not specs, but changed these leaks from what I'm reading, if something changed within the company, it could probably only be for the better. I don't think it was anything that Sony's shown or released, because I don't think they would change anything in the system based on what Sony did.
More from public backlash.
Yes. So hopefully that's a good thing. We'll find out more on May 21st. I say this with great confidence, but no, we'll find out if it's announced on May 21st.
That'll be an interesting podcast.
That would very much be an interesting podcast.
Very interesting podcast, just to see. Because either way, it's like if they keep it, it's like, damn, Microsoft, you fucked up. But if they don't keep it, be like, damn, Microsoft, you fucked up. It's like either way, it's like one way or another, they're gonna get embarrassed in some way, because we're gonna either badmouth them because they kept it in, or we're gonna badmouth them because they had to change it because of all the shit.
I look at it as, if they change it, it's a good thing for everyone. If they change
I think so too. But I'm still gonna make fun of them.
Good. But I do hope they change it, because I don't really think this is, and another thing to know is whether you don't like Microsoft or not, hate them, like them, doesn't really matter. If this comes true, and let's say you're never planning on 720 to begin with, you should be worried about it, because it potentially means the next wave of game systems that are released by Sony and Nintendo's will have always online.
If this is a successful thing.
Yes. Not even just if it's successful, even if it's mediocrely successful, even if they sell a little bit of units, it's the idea that Microsoft is doing it to begin with. Mm-hmm. So it's like when the next wave of PlayStation 5 and the next Nintendo system come out, if they know, I don't see any reason for Microsoft to change their minds, because even if they sell less units, it's not about selling the most units, it's about making the most money. So even if they sell less units, they'll know they made profit, and they'll know they made more money by choosing this decision. It's like the same thing with Kinect. I mean, a lot of people are down in Kinect and they hate it, but let's be real, it's making Microsoft a lot of money. So it's one of those things where they don't really care how they look in the public eye. If they're making money, what do they care? So it's one of these things where even if they sell less units, they might keep always online in the next system because it made them money, which scares me, because it means that Sony or Nintendo might jump and do the same thing. Once Microsoft is established to keep this in, it's just opening another door for Sony to say you won't complain and you won't buy another system when you have no choice between the online anymore. That's what might happen, and if that does happen, then you can't do anything about it. You could stop one company from doing it by boycotting it, but once two do it, it's a wrap. There's nowhere to go anymore, and it's a wrap.
GameStop needs to start saying some stuff.
Yes,
like 80% of the business.
If it's true, I could see GameStop going out of business within about a year or two. If it's true, because if you're making your money off of used games, you're making the bulk of it off the games from last year, and that can't happen if there is no more. If you're
planning on buying stock in GameStop,
better start taking that shit out.
Do it now, because in a couple of years, it's just gonna it's gonna plummet.
I'm dead serious. On the 21st, if they announce that this thing really is blocking used games on the 21st, I'm telling you right now, if you have stock in that shit, take that shit out. Because at this point, even if they announce it, even if it's crappy, someone's taking a hit, and GameStop's gonna take that hit. Even if the system bombs and fails horribly, GameStop's gonna take a big hit, because you have to understand these entire games that would be sold for it aren't being sold. Mm-hmm. Even if you say, well, I don't care, I wasn't going to buy it anyway, the shareholders are going to be pissed off. This is money that they would have got from one of the systems that they won't now get. Mm-hmm. I mean, GameStop sells a lot of used games that they make they sell a lot of new games, but they make their profit from new games, from used games. Excuse me. So it's definitely a topic we're standing really closely on, because it deals with everything in gaming. So we're kind of looking really, really, really closely at this. But we'll have more to talk about it, like when the announcements even come out, or when the rumored date comes up. We'll talk about it as well.
A lot of this podcast was like, to be honest, oh, shit's coming. And when it comes, we're going to talk about it. Yes. It's going to be awesome.
This was just like a news update podcast. Nothing of existing. It was just a podcast to say
a lot of cool stuff. Like, look out for The Evil Within. Oh, look out! We're gonna be looking out for X. Oh, look out
Change
for
your
Wii
account.
U stuff. Oh, look out for Xbox. It's like,
But
yeah, a lot of good stuff coming down the pipipeline very shortly.
let's call this the preview podcast.
Yeah,
That's like
right. Episode 4, the preview.
look forward to shit coming up.
Aw, yeah. But with that, my name is Craig Robinson.
Edwin Norval.
See you guys for episode 5.
Yay.